As the frigid air brushes across your skin, you start to regret picking the night shift. Sure, there are less duties, but at the same time, you only have one other person to keep you company. You steer, he directs. That's all the interaction you need, or so you thought. Days become weeks, and weeks become months. Eventually, you stop keeping track, not because you are unable to, but because time is a matter of indifference to you at this point. It's been ages since you've seen a member of the opposite sex. It's been so long that you begin to forget what they sound like. Of course, you will dock soon, at which point you'll be able to treat yourself to all the prostitutes in the world with all the gold you and your crew have collected. All that is required is a bit of patience. As you make your way through yet another night shift, your mate yells to you about some women stranded on a nearby sea stack. You, being the skeptic you are, ask him to throw down his goggles so that you could verify. Sure enough, they are there, the most beautiful women you've ever had the privilege of laying your eyes on. Awestruck, you immediately change course. At this point, your treasure is of no concern to you. All you want is the warm embrace of these women. As you get closer, you hear something strange. The women are singing, and their song leaves you in a trance. Suddenly, you become a passenger in your own body as you draw the ship closer to the stones. They seemingly have a gravitational pull on you because their influence only becomes more and more powerful as you get closer. In a matter of seconds, the ship is crashed into the stones, and everything you spent months at the sea collecting drifts to the bottom of the ocean, never to be seen again. The women you have sacrificed everything for slowly begin to reveal their true form, and you realize that you've been bamboozled. You have nobody but yourself to blame since you allowed your lust to pilot the ship instead of using your better judgment. This story is based on the mythological creatures known as sirens. They were portrayed as beautiful women who would use their songs to lure men to wreck their ships at sea. Greek mythology has many stories like this, where a female-like creature would lead men to their demise, often playing into the lust of the men they were baiting. This theme also reappears in numerous other forms of mythology. In the Bible, there are beings known as succubuses, who slowly eat away at a man's physical and mental health as they continue to fornicate with them. In the Eastern realm, there are these beings known as cubies, which are foxes that take the form of beautiful women and are known to use their sorcery to get men to lose their memories or possess the men and take their souls. There are so many examples of this archetype, but what I find more interesting is not going through each one in particular, but rather to examine why this is such a ubiquitous archetype. After all, the mythos of all these religions were all formed under varying cultural environments, yet they all happen to develop as the same type of beings. Why is that? And more importantly, where do we see the manifestations of these beings in modern society? One thing that reappears in each story is that the being often takes the form of a beautiful woman, and that they only have power through intercourse. Sexual attraction is the only way they can manipulate their targets. If there is no attraction, then they are powerless. I believe early humans understood the importance of sexual energy because they understood that attraction was what every society essentially needed in order to survive. Because without sexual energy, the women would have no leverage in society since they offer very little outside of reproduction. But then why demonize it by making these beings beautiful women? Well, the answer to that can be found in the 7 deadly sins. One of the sins is lust, and among many others, it represents unbridled sexual desire. It is not sexual desire that is bad, but rather the impulsive fulfillment of that desire that can drive anyone to ruin, whether that be a man or a woman. For women, it ruins their pair bonding capabilities. For men, it can lead to sex addiction and cause the man to lose any sort of direction besides satisfying his lust. However, I think the meaning can be a bit deeper for men, because they lose their mental and physical capabilities only after repeated intercourse with these beings. It would seem that the entity is somewhat of a partner to these men and not some random hookup. This may be a warning to men to dissuade them from getting into a toxic relationship. This reminds me of the Jezebel spirit, which are women who use sex to manipulate men. They sex bomb the men at the start of the relationship to get them invested, and then slowly drain him of his time and resources over the course of their relationship. In the same way a succubus would drain the life out of a man, these women drain a man of his youth and motivation because she requires constant attention, which drains the man's mental energy. The man becomes physically and mentally weaker as he attempts to appease her desires. However, these beings are never satisfied. A succubus is never tired of sex, and so in the same way, these women are never tired of getting more of men's attention and resources. These fables served as a warning to the men in the past about not falling for these devious tricks because this archetype of women is not new. These women have always been around, and the wise men were well aware of their existence. If you think about it from her perspective though, it is a completely viable sexual strategy. She gets an obedient man to manifest her will into the world for her, while all she has to do is hit him with an initial bombardment of sex. From an evolutionary perspective, I see no problems with this tactic, assuming everything goes as planned. However, there is a problem of society that caused this strategy to be unsuitable in the past, because women were shamed for exposing themselves sexually before marriage. Unfortunately, in our current societal zeitgeist, God is dead, and with him went all the mythological lessons that came with his teachings. And so we have a generation of women free to indulge their inner QB spirits and drain men both emotionally and physically. We see this in men who become complacent once they get a girlfriend and begin going to the gym less because they have to spend more time with her. He also loses his friends and hobbies because she demands all of his free time, effectively taking his soul. Even the government condones this with the asinine family courts and common law marriages. All she has to do is sex bomb you for a year or two before the government decides to give her access to all of your resources. It is no surprise that the society has gone in the direction it has, because discarding religion came with the implicit belief that all religious teachings were maladaptive in our current period. However, while I'm not religious myself, I can clearly see that it would be foolish to believe these stories have no value. They have crucial insights about the human condition that have unfortunately been lost with time. At this point, I don't even think it's possible to reinstate these mindsets, because these same parasitic women have our legislators by the balls, so they wouldn't dare do anything to upset their main demographic. It's such a shame too, because it's a system where nobody wins, yet for some reason it's still promoted. All I know is that when the West falls, I'll gladly watch these Jezebels reap what they sow, with a shit-eating grin all over my face. That's all I have to say for now. I like reading about mythology because it always baffled me how so many religions in the past contain stories that are applicable to us even in this day. There's clearly something universal about the human existence they were all able to tap into, and I believe examination of these stories can teach us more about what lies under the hood. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and as always, stay prosperous.